For the last couple of years, this backyard bed has mostly been allowed to do its thing. The good news is that it fills in beautifully and doesn't require much maintenance. The bad news is that eventually nature starts making design decisions for you. So today, I'm cleaning things up, reclaiming some space, and getting this bed ready for the next chapter. First step is weeding. Most of what I'm pulling out is grass that's slowly creeping into the beds. It's amazing how a few blades here and there turn into a much bigger problem if you ignore them long enough. Once the weeds are out, it's time to tackle the edge. I realized while working on this project that it has been about 2 years since I last edged or mulched this bed. It doesn't sound like much, but a fresh edge makes such a difference. They immediately give the garden a cleaner, more intentional look. With the edge reestablished, I can finally see the shape of the bed again. Next comes the harder part, and that's removing plants. My husband absolutely loves the maidenhair ferns in this area, and honestly, I do too. The large mass between our yard and our neighbor's yard creates a beautiful woodland feel. The problem is that over time, they've crept further and further forward. So instead of acting as a backdrop, they've started taking over valuable planting space at the front of the bed. I'm not getting rid of them completely. I'm just taking back the first few feet so that the bed has better structure and more room for the plants I want to add. The goal is for this space to be balanced between formal and natural. I don't want a perfectly manicured landscape, but I also don't want to feel overgrown. I like gardens that feel a little wild while still looking intentional. As I add in new plants, they gradually step up in height from the front of the bed to the back, where the ferns remain the tallest layer behind everything else. Once this cleanup is finished, it's time to address the soil. Earlier this year, I completed soil tests throughout the yard, and this bed needed the largest potassium application of any of the areas that I tested. So today, I am applying potash to bring those levels up. And then for any new plants going into this area, I'm also going to be adding a balanced fertilizer. That gives them a little bit of nitrogen along with phosphorus and potassium they'll need to get established. After fertiling, everything gets a good watering in. Water helps to activate the fertilizer and move those nutrients down to the root zone where the plants can actually use them. mulch along the front edge of this bed. Further back, the plants are planted closely enough together that they are pretty good with suppressing weeds on their own. The space that's open along the front is intentional because every year I like to fill it with impatiens. Changing the color from year to year keeps the garden looking fresh. And this year I'm planting light pink impatiens. Last year I used white. Some years I'll mix it up and do multiple colors, again, just to create a different look. While I had mulch on hand, I also created a small path that loops towards the back of the bed. There is a future project planned in this area, but for now, this path helps suppress weeds and makes the space easier to access. One of my favorite things about this section of the garden is how dramatically it changes throughout the season. In spring, the star is the woodland perennials. I have these white blooms from foam flowers, this soft blue from wild phlox, and then these drooping pink bleeding hearts that create a pastel color palette that feels calm and almost storybook-like. Many of them bloom for weeks, which makes the spring one of the prettiest times to visit this bed. As the season progresses, the color palette shifts. Summer brings more yellow and white blooms, and it creates an entirely different mood. That's one of the things that I enjoy most about gardening. The same space can feel completely different depending on the time of year. Now that the cleanup is finished, the bed is freshly edged, improved irrigation, a new mulch path, and room for the next phase of planting. And if you look closely, you might even spot a few of the new plants that will be featured in part 2.